Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Right. Yeah, another edition of Where I Went Right. For this edition, I'm gonna play around with this title a little bit, whether it be Where I Went Wrong or Where I Went Right. It's actually I did better on the ones where I said where I went wrong, but just playing on a little bit. So that's the whole thing. I'm playing on the title a little bit, but I'm basically gonna start calling it recap. But is it right now experimental? Very much messing around with it until I see what to do with it. But yeah. But this is the recap for UFC Vegas 34, Cannonier versus Gastelum. I went 7-5 for the card. Not the worst, not the greatest again. But I'm actually, as far as result wise of like my pick 7-5, I'm happy for the card. It was a card I felt was very like toss up with a lot of these matchups, and it still come out positive. Still, pretty solid on a lot of these predictions. It were a couple glaring predictions that stuck out, and I'm gonna go over those. And as far as the wins, I'm just gonna really kind of graze over the wins because it's not supposed to be a toot my own horn type of video. It's supposed to be like a humility video and also a recap, giving like just running through the event and give my insight or give my thoughts on what happened and where I went wrong and other stuff. So it's not gonna be a video where I talk so much about what I did right, but again, more so what I did wrong in these videos. But yeah, I'm still overall I'm impressed. But what I'm okay, like impressed, whatever case. I'm happy or proud of at least how But what I am not proud of is I'm not proud of giving out that three piece parlay that went 0-3. That was terrible, like straight out terrible. I'm gonna get to all that. But sorry, Bella, for giving that parlay, whether you went on it or not, or just for simply even giving you that. I'm very much sorry for putting that out in the air. And anyone else that saw that and like, oh, that's a good parlay and winning with it, sorry. And also, B Maleki should be sorry for that performance, but she the one who got hit the worst. She got knocked out, so she obviously the one who felt it the worst. We might feel bad if you put money on it and stuff, but she put her life on and career on and got knocked out. So yeah, it is what it is. But she got to do some stuff and go back into the wheelhouse. By the way, I'm not gonna be high on her. I think I never was really truly high on her. I was just really not high on Josie Ann Nunez, and even after this point, I'm not high on neither of these women. But Josie Ann Nunez definitely got some power that she got respect in this division. I will give her that. She's tough. She will bring it. I knew she would be tough, but power definitely in this division. But I still feel she should go down to 105. But or I said 105 or 115. They don't have a 105 in the UFC, but like a 115. She gets cut or anything at any point, try going to 105. But I guess she got the power. She knocked out 135ers, and B Malachi I think at one point was a featherweight, so she got power. That's one thing I could give her. She got power, and she tough. But let's run through the card. UFC Vegas 34. First fight was in the welterweight division. In the welterweight division. Romney's Brahimage versus Sasha Palatnikov. And this fight went pretty much how it went. A Zach method, a Zach submission, rear naked choke, but it was in the first round and not the second round. So, like a good win. Good prediction for me on that point. But not all that impressed with Brahimaj. I feel like that's what he should have done. He did what he was supposed to do. So I'm not all high on him. Palatnikov, I think he just further proved what I already saw in him in his last fight and even the other fight. But he was able to get a win against the Cost brother or Cozy brother, and then in Kasagane, yeah, Kasaganai showed up that weakness again in his grappling. And this fight is really to show like his weakness. So it don't really say a whole. It was such a short fight. I don't really say a whole lot about Brahima. Show he's skilled. Show like his ability on the ground, but it didn't really say, oh, he did this against a really truly credible competition. I feel like it was did what he's supposed to do. So impressed. Good. Like kudos to him. Like it was a good win and all, but it don't really say a whole lot about him going forward. It shows that he got a win. Now that's out the way. Now he needs another couple fights to really show something. Because that fight it showed what he was supposed to already have. So that was that. Next fight we had in lightweight division Ignacio Bahamondes versus Roosevelt Roberts, and this fight played out pretty much well. Yeah, like it was a wrong pick for me. So this is the first pick I got wrong. But I don't for whatever reason I expected Roberts' wrestling to be a little bit better. But I feel like Bahamondes worked on his wrestling defense. It was a weaker area of his prior to the UFC, but I feel like he's been working on it a bit. And also looking at Roberts, it's not like he ever been a really great offensive wrestler at any point in his MMA career. So it wasn't really a lot to lean on, and I feel like the fight was pretty close on paper and striking, and it was in the fight up until like third round where Bahamondes started to break away with it. So yeah, but definitely I feel like that edge would have been Roberts being able to wrestle, and he did try to wrestle, but he had no success in there. So the improvements by Bahamondes, so I'm like, this is not a pick where I feel bad about necessarily, but it's a lot to learn about. Only thing about Roberts, I feel like he hasn't evolved. He hadn't really learned from his losses yet, or really improved so much from his losses. But I feel like Bahamonde, like I feel like he made some. No, he went back to the gym and worked on some areas, whether it was shown in his fight against Medexi or not. He went back and worked. So I feel like that's the thing we haven't seen with Robert. Like we haven't seen him get better or go back to the gym and come back and look more improved. We haven't seen that from him. Like he come out still look at the same fighter he was when he debuted. Still a solid fighter, but it look like you're gonna need to be a lot better to stick around in the UFC, and especially you want to rise the ranks. So that's something concerned about him. Roberts, his stocks drop. Bahamonde's stocks come back up, but I still want to see him in there with a better wrestler or a higher level fighter. Still like very much a low end. He's still like 23, 24, so a lot of time to develop. But impressed with him. But Roberts himself need to go back to the gym, actually improve on some stuff. And Bahamonde does just need to show more and see him in there with some different style matchups. But I like that for him. But very impressed with Bahamonde. That's all I would say. And now to the next one, we had the light heavyweight division. William Knight versus Fabio Charon. And that fight really ain't saying that. I feel like, William Knight got a big knockout victory. It's not like his skills look all that good. He had all the same exact flaws he had in every other single fight. He's got quite a knockout over Fabio Charon. And Fabio Charon, his striking looked much more improved than in like other fights, but still got walked right into that big wide hook, like almost I would say not even a hook, it's a big wide slap. So William Knight, short, stocky, and powerful like a mini tank. And what has changed? Technique's still not that good, but he's still short, strong, mini tank. So not a whole lot of improvements from William Knight at all. Fabio Charon improvement, but he got knocked out. So good win for William Knight. I picked him to win. I think I picked like second round TKO or something, but it was the first round TKO. Not in the way I thought it would be, but a win nonetheless. But as far as William Knight, good that I picked him, good that he won. But it don't really say a whole lot about any improvements in him. Maybe he'll gain some more confidence in his striking, but that could be a bad thing because like you knock him out with sloppy technique, not like your technique was clean and like, oh, I could work on this more. It's gonna be like getting rewarded for sloppy technique. And even regardless of that, I don't see him really going that far in the division, like at all. So, and Charon probably not gonna go that far either, from what I've seen. But I feel like Charon actually low-key has a higher ceiling than William Knight, because I think I've seen Fabio Charon actually make improvement, whereas William Knight, I feel like he's been the same guy his whole career, and like it's not really a whole lot of improvement going on there at all. And Fabio Charon's younger, despite getting knocked out, I feel like he has more potential if he continues to work and develop. But I feel like William Knight eventually going to reach a glass ceiling he's not going to be able to overcome. And he already had kind of ran into the wall, but that's beside the point. Good win for me. Good win for William Knight, but William Knight going forward, not impressed with him, and don't really see him doing much and making any type of waves. Might pick up a couple more wins, but like not saying no improvement. You need to improve in this game, especially when there's so much improvement to need to be done and so many flaws in your game. And now, next fight we had in the women's bantamweight division, Josiane Nunes versus B. Malecki, or B. Malecki versus Josiane Nunes. This was one of the fights where I feel like I did anybody who watched that video wrong. And it's even in the video, on the video I put in the description, like I didn't put it a lot because even when you make mistakes, it's also parts of you where you know what you're talking about. You know which how to perceive things. So I put it as a high, but not a lot, because for a reason. I picked it, put it as a high and not a lot, because even though she's has all that height and all that reach, and she should win. I mean, she got knocked out, but she should win. Like hindsight, she should win and all that stuff. She still only had 4 or less fights, not very many fights. It's not like she looked all that great in those fights. It was that she had on paper had all these supposed to be this Muay this, supposed to be Muay that. She had like a foot of reach, like a foot of height over her. So like she should beat her. And it's not like Josiane Nunes looked impressive in her fight. She looked mediocre in her fights outside of UFC. So I was like 2 mediocre looking competitions and one taller. But I got so confident on that height and that reach, and that neither of them look impressive. So like the person with the better attributes should win. But that was not the case. So it's good that it was high. Like even going forward, if I see stuff like that, I'm probably gonna be high on that person. But without the experience or really backing or like consistency, they have to get a check, like they got fights in the past, history to back that check. Like it's always gonna be at the most high, but never a lock. And it should never be a lock, and never should be a case where you're gonna put big money. You put somebody like that in your parlay, unless you just know some stuff, like you really know deep down stuff, not just from like kind of the broad surface. So that was one of the bigger disappointments as far as the card in one of my picks, and I should have known better. Like not for picking B. Malecki, but to be as high on Malecki as I was. I mean, like I said, high is good, but lock or even throwing that in the parlay or mentioning to throw that in the parlay, it just was not smart. It was a big mistake on my part. Josiane Nunes, but now let's see Malecki going forward, definitely looking like lost a lot of stock, and I can't really see what she's gonna do in the division. But she's still got a good height, good frame, and whatnot. Maybe you can work on some skills and stuff, and work on her mistakes. But again, I'm not really checking for her no more. Josie Nunez, I'm gonna check for her a little bit, but the fight really ain't say all that much about her outside her power. I just feel like it was more a case of Malecki just looking off and sloppy, and there's a lack of defense. But I feel like in them face decent competition, they're gonna get embarrassed going forward. Maybe keep them around entry level, and they might be able to eke some wins out, throw off some people's parlay, throw off this, throw off that in the future. But you throw them up further higher, I think both of them get picked apart. So it's not like I'm not super impressed with either one, but it definitely was a beautiful knockout, and definitely Nunez messed up a lot of people's parlays and shook up the card right there. So good win for her, and that was lost for me. So was that two of my? I'm like 2-2 at this point in the card. The next fight we had in the bantamweight division, Brian Keller versus Domingo Pilarde. I thought it would be a knockout in this fight. But overall, like, there's not even a whole lot to talk about in this fight. I feel like Brian Keller was just the more experienced, the more polished, the veteran fighter in his game. In that fight between him and Pilarde had his little moments here and there, but experience and skill overshadowed what Pilarde brought. And Keller went out and got a decision victory. I predicted like a stop, like he'll catch him, but a controlled veteran type performance where you just make the fight easy and you take away I guess that the volatility of MMA and fighting where anything can happen. You just, if I just take you down and control you, I know I'm the better grappler, I'm the better wrestler, better this, better that, and more experience, then I win the fight. And that's what Keller did. For the smart veteran fight, he didn't get the stoppage. I don't think it was ever really close to getting the stoppage, but for the smart veteran fight, did the right thing and got a decision. So it was a win for me. Not in the way I predicted, but times a win by inch or a mile, perfect or not, a win's a win, and it was a good win by Keller. But yeah, as far as both guys, I don't think I really say too much differently about what you've seen about either guy. Like, I feel like it's a win for Brian Keller. It's a loss for Pilarde, but it's not like it's necessarily like a bad loss for Pilarde because he took a huge step up in competition, the best guy he fought by far. And as far as Keller was like a guy that was beneath him, but it was just more so another win, another check. So it's not like it was a whole lot said for either guy. It was not like say, oh, Keller improved so much or Pilarde fell off so much on anything or any other case. So it was like not a whole lot to draw from that fight necessarily in a stint, unless they go against some other people, some similar competition or similar styles. But as far as just individually, it's like not a lot of improvement or nothing to really draw from the fight. But a win for me to push me to 3-2 on the card. And then to our next fight we had in the featherweight division, Austin Lingo versus Luis Aldana. So this was the second guy on my parlay. And this was also another like almost cardinal MMA sin, like to put so much confidence in a fighter that hadn't really shown too much. Coming into the UFC, his grappling was definitely questionable. It felt like he kind of addressed it a little bit against Griffin, even though he lost that fight to Griffin. And I picked Griffin to beat him for those same reasons. But he got to eke off a decision. But again, a guy that was not like didn't look super all that great. And Lingo looked even less great. So it was like, okay, this guy looked better. You look worse. I'm leaning to this guy. But again, it shouldn't be that much confidence in people that don't really have a proven track record or are consistent. They're still very, fresh faces. So like you can't put too much confidence in fresh faces, fresh, unexperienced faces without the track record to really back leaning to them in any type of way with any type of great investment, maybe minimum investment with those guys. So, there's some amateurish mistakes on this card as far as some of these picks. But money aside and all this stuff aside, I would have picked like hindsight, like not hindsight, but like in that given moment, I would pick a guy in similar position, Aldana, and I would not feel bad about it. So I don't feel too bad about that pick. I do feel bad about, putting as much confidence in it. I would pick like, similar situations, similar fighters, similar backgrounds, similar previous fights. I would pick a Aldana over a Lingo probably like 90 times out of 100. Yeah, 90 times out of 100. And I'm not saying like every single case that does, like I'm not saying like in the case that, I'll pick this guy and Lingo will win every single time. I'm giving different fighters. In most cases, the Aldana will win. In most cases, probably like 90% of the time, Aldana will win. Or out of that 90% of the time, 90% of the times. But yeah, in most cases, that's Aldana will win. But as far as just looking at the particular fighter, Aldana himself, Aldana did show, this is great intel to come from this fight. So at least at this given moment, Aldana as a fighter likes a lot of flash, does a lot of, spends a lot of energy that he doesn't need unnecessarily. Good through the first round. Looks like, he's like a guy that should be here and could do great things in the sport. but he's a fader. Like you take him out of the first round, and then the second round he starts to slow down. Third round he's gassed, he's open, defense not there. And I thought he might have better cardio. If I thought the reason his cardio dropped off in the Griffin fight because it was a lot of grappling, and grappling makes you tired. This fight didn't have not nearly as much grappling at all, not nearly. So I thought his cardio would hold it better. I didn't even think it'd be a question. But regardless, when he went out to grappling, his cardio dipped off. So you got, cause when you see a guy like, unless he's fighting some guy that just not so much beneath him, or just has like brittle legs or something like that, that's or a soft body, or somebody that should not be in there, or he has like such a huge stylistic advantage over, and they, unless like something like that, probably gonna pick against him. Unless, well, no, I'm not gonna pick against him like so many fighters. I'm just saying like, I don't know what I'm saying, but I feel like as far as who could beat him, I feel like somebody could push a good pace, and solid and could push a good pace. I'll pick them over him, and guys I'll pick over him are guys that just I feel like should not really be in there with him. I don't feel like Lingo was so much beneath him, so I just feel like he was cleaner than Lingo. But the case is he couldn't maintain that cleanness through 3 rounds. He can only do that for like 1 round, and then he started to fade in the second and drop off in third. So if it's kind of close and the guy can push that pace and like belonging it with him, you're gonna be some concerns and kind of like leaning, but also you got factoring styles. But definitely, I can see a guy that has a solid skill set and could push the pace, like known for pace, or known for like a really solid wrestler, solid trained wrestler, or just a cardio striker that don't have the most power but volume and constantly in your face and constantly pushing the pace, pushing the envelope, picking them over him like probably every single time. I would imagine, but things change up when you look at different cards. But that's my intel for that fight. But as far as Lingo, not all that impressed with Lingo. I still feel like he's the same exact fighter. I don't feel like he's gonna make all that many waves in the division. I feel like he might get 1 or 2 more wins at most. Is it right now until proven otherwise? Like I said, I don't really see much evolution in him. But I think this fight more so just exposed Aldana's lack of cardio, at least when he's spending so much energy trying to throw flashy strikes. Maybe he'll slow down some of the flash and he'll be able to maintain that pace better and should win over guys like Lingo. But is it right now? Still very much flashy, still very much spending a lot of energy, and very much can't carry that pace through 3 rounds and to his own detriment. So, and also people who pick him and bet on him. And I did offer a parlay that went 0-3, so not the best look for me for leading this guy that's unproven without the track record to even put that much confidence in. Now to our main card, we had in the flyweight division, Pantoja versus Royval in flyweight division. In this fight, Pantoja got a submission victory, and yeah, I picked him to win, so it was a win for me, which is good. But I feel like it's not a fight that necessarily drops the stocks of Royval, or really raises the stocks of Pantoja. Maybe on paper, when you look at it on paper, oh, he stopped, and so he looks so much better now. Nah, I don't really do that, because really in the fight, like, Pantoja started to slow down a little bit, and Royval's pace started frustrating a little bit, but he was able to take advantage of, like I said, sometimes Royval get a little bit sloppy out there. He took advantage of the sloppiness of Royval. He was tired. He still saw the opportunity and was able to take his back and choke him out. So, this show, Fight IQ show experience. Like I said, if Royval does be sloppy in a lot of areas and get away with it, he just took advantage of his sloppiness. But I feel like going forward, like I said, I don't feel like, to me, Pantoja stocks rose all that much, and I don't feel like Royval stocks lowered all that much. I feel like he could still beat a lot of people in this division, but he's always going to be kind of running to a brick wall very hard when he goes up to the higher level competition, because they're going to take advantage of all his sloppiness that he refuses to really work on. Still like almost a punching bag on the feet, and don't really move his head at all. On the ground, very scrambly, and kind of gets ahead of himself on the ground and in general. So that's like all stuff I really saw. I didn't see the submission come. I saw a decision, but like I said, inch by or mile, perfect or not, I saw the same things. And Pantoja was able to take even more advantage of it and get a submission victory in the second round, instead of just controlling him through 2 or in the striking, in the grappling overall, and beat him to a decision. So good one for Pantoja, but I don't think his stocks raised all the high. I think the biggest thing about his stocks is that it's attached to Moreno, by beating Moreno twice, once in the house and once in the UFC, and both times pretty convincingly. His stocks are already raising because, I beat that guy. That's the bill holder who just dominantly beat the former champion. So his stocks rose most for that fight than his actual own fight against Royval. But going forward, I feel like Moreno made some improvements. I feel like right now I would favor Moreno, but we had to see. I feel like, he might have his number, but I feel like Moreno was a different fighter, has improved a lot, but we shall see. And maybe by the time they might fight again, maybe I will lean to Pantoja again. Yeah, so now to our next fight we had in the lightweight division, Vince Patchell versus Austin Hubbard. And this fight played out similar to how I thought it would. I thought Patchell might have a little bit more wrestling success. I think Hubbard will have the same amount, but he got 4 takedowns, but really didn't do nothing with none of the takedowns. And then overall, like I said, I feel like Hubbard wasn't who people thought he was, and then like he pushed at such a crazy high pace. Even though he was named like 10 years his senior, I feel like Patchell was it's the more technical fighter, more experienced, stronger, and whatnot. And improving the fight, he was more experienced, more technical. And Hubbard wrestling wasn't to the degree it needed to be. His pace was to the degree it needed to be to be successful and get a win. So basically, he was just coming up short in all the areas he needed to really find success. Like if he was wrestling a little bit better, maybe he could control Patchell more, not just have Patchell just be the get up, reverse, and gain position on him and stuff. So it was just a case like just not. He had some of the skills, but not to the degree enough to get the victory. And Patchell's experience, strength, and technique was prevalent over the stuff that Hubbard had brought. So that fight played out a lot like I thought. Just not exactly, but predicted a decision, had a decision. I thought, matter of fact, yeah, the closest it could get as far as prediction, just a little bit off. But so I was impressed with that as far as for me, a little bit. As far as Patchell and Hubbard, I don't feel like the drops are lower than anyone's stocks. I feel like it was just a case of both of these guys just told people what they already knew. Maybe for Patchell, matter of fact, Patchell still got taken down 4 times. So when he go against a better wrestler, he's gonna get taken down in control. So again, he fought Greg Gillespie, same thing would happen to him, if not worse. So again, I don't feel like it really raised or lowered anybody's stocks. I mean, a win always raises your stocks to keep you around, you put more money in your pockets. But to me, I don't feel like it raised or lowered or totaled. Show me anything that I haven't already known about either guy. That's what it is as far as for me. For like general UFC, Patchell stocks go up a little, Hubbard stocks drop a little for general UFC or general MMA. But for me, like as far as how I see these guys betting on them or predicting them in the future, I don't feel like it changed anything as far as between what I like, how I feel about either guy. So for me, stocks remain dead where they were before. Nothing raised or lowered. Now to our next fight, we had a catchweight bout at 138.5, or the case. We had Sadyakub Kakhramonov versus Trevin Jones. And really this was another loss right here. So I had the Patchell one right, had the Patoja one right, and then I ran into another loss. And for this one, I feel like it's a case of it definitely like a lot of. I feel like on Trevin Jones' side, he didn't fight how he shot. I feel like he felt a little bit timid. Like he didn't, like he was already giving him too much respect on the feet. And even that second round, at one time he was getting tore up in the second round, but then he started letting on offense off, and now instantly backed up Kakhramonov, and then was able to get a takedown. When he did a little bit of offense, put a little bit of combination together, chained a little combination together, level change, he got a takedown. But when he just tried to go for these blind takedowns, all he did was hold him against the cage. So what did that should tell you? Like, why not? Why are you so afraid of this guy going backwards? You're not like Mayweather or anybody that's great going backwards. Why not push the pace a little bit forward and then look for the takedowns, and then you'll find success instead of just trying to go for the takedowns and not really find anything. But either way, I feel like for me, Trevin Jones stocks drop a bit, and like even like as far as with this pick, as far as me, I don't take this loss too bad. Like I just feel like it's like MMA. I mean, it's just sports. It's prediction. It's trying to predict stuff. I don't feel too bad about the predictions. Like it's not really a whole lot as far as to draw against me. But between these fighters, there's stuff to draw. I just feel like Trevor Jones was a little bit flat. Like all these different opponents and stuff, so he was not really fully prepared for them, and he didn't have the same confidence. I feel like he didn't come with the same confidence for Mario Batista, who I feel has shown better striking than what Sadyakub showed. But he gave him so much respect that he didn't give other fighters. So it was like it was weird, a little respect. So like when he did let his hands go, he found success, but for the most part, he didn't let those hands go. And that would have gave him more success with the wrestling, allowed better entries, but did not show it. As far as Sadyakub, he showed some good power, got some good speed, not afraid to take risks, not afraid to attack submissions, got some good arm cardio or muscle, whatever you call that, muscle cardio. I forget the word, but I'll be thinking forever trying to figure out what it is. But they would go for that deep choke, attempt another choke, then switch to transition to another choke. So early on, went deep for that guillotine. Later on, went for that like a little front guillotine. I forget what it's called, but that. And then transition to like a Doris. Yeah, a lot of arm cardio on that, man. So I'm impressed with Sadyakub, but I feel like against a better wrestler and a guy that's going to push the pace, he could end up. I don't like how the way he was able to get held against cage that long. So stuff to draw against him, but I don't take that loss too bad. But I feel like both guys can still have promising futures. I just like Sherman Jones just gotta get it to click a little bit more and not be so timid out there. And like I feel like he could learn easily what he did wrong. I feel like he already look back at tape and already know what he did wrong in that fight. It's not like it's definitely a stock drop for him, but I feel like if he would have did the right things, it was very much a winnable fight for him. So that's why I feel. So I don't feel like his stocks necessarily dropped all that much, but the fact that he got choked and put out like that on the highlight reel, his UFC stock's gonna drop a lot. But for me, I don't think his stocks drop all that crazy. Sasha Kakramanos, I feel iffy about his fight anyway. Cause I saw how good he looked against Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, he looked all that great, but his defense and stuff against Umar Nurmagomedov looked good. So, and in this fight, he showed some skill. So he looked very good, very promising. So next fight, we have Parker Porter versus Chase Sherman, and with this one, it's another case of should have known better. But like Chase Sherman, this was the last leg of that parlay. But yeah, Chase Sherman is not a guy to really bet on. And that was just a thing that I already had still in myself. But for that reason, I got confidence in him for that reason again. But yeah, it's already established that Chase Sherman is not trustable. And for the most part, as a guy that's like on the lower tier and barely UFC caliber in most cases. So I don't know why I got that high on him. Maybe it was a combination of a little bit of confidence gained in Sherman for his performance against Arlovsky and a losing effort, put on a competitive effort against Arlovsky, and the fact that Porter got just ran through by Chris Dawkins, and also his fight against whatever his name, the guy he fought last was not that impressive. So like, I feel like he won that fight because that guy cardio was trash. But all that being said, the main thing with this one for me is that you can't really rely heavily on Chase Sherman. The fact that I even considered putting him in a parlay was retarded. I mean, that's a bad word, but I'm gonna keep it in the video. But it's not great thinking to lean to Sherman. Maybe on like an individual bet, maybe like a small bet, but don't put no big bets on Sherman at all, like ever. Probably even if he leaves the UFC and fights in the regional scene, he's always going to be a risk factor. So it's like not smart money to put anything on Sherman. And also, I really overlooked a lot of the skills of Parker Porter. It's just that Chris Dawkins is so good that he made Parker Porter look bad. That's all it really is. And also, like as far as Chase Sherman, he's still exactly who he is. Parker Porter showing that there's more to him than people give him credit for. He had one bad loss as far as in the UFC, and you can't really hold that over him too much. I don't think he can go too far in the division. I'm not high on either of these guys at all, but I definitely think Parker Porter probably can pull off some upset picks in the lower end of the heavyweight division. But as far as when we start getting further, I see him getting ran through. But lower end could definitely pull some upsets, like lower end, maybe outside top 10, top 15, pull some upsets. But can't really see much for him. Chase Sherman, he came back and he's still very much who he is the last time he was in the UFC. And probably going to be looking at the exit and probably within a year or less. So that's my thoughts on that. Then we had in our co-main event in the lightweight division, we had Marco Madison versus Clay Guida. And this fight went like to a close decision like I thought for Marco Madison. So that was another win for me. But it was more striking than grappling, which was surprising. But it's good for Marco Madison. It's better than a close wrestling matchup. Maybe you could have said more for like a close wrestling match or even a dominant wrestling matchup for Marco Madison. To say that his cardio, he can do a crazy heavy wrestling, grappling exchange with Clay Guida for 15 minutes and come out victorious. That would have said a lot about his cardio. But his weakest area is definitely his striking, and he showed a lot of improvement. And he said he, within that little short time, like 4 or 5 months, he made leaps of improvement, and it showed. He made some improvements. He outstruck Clay Guida over the course of 3 rounds. It's not like I don't think his pace slowed anything crazy. So I expected him to slow down a lot in the 3rd round, but he didn't. Like Clay Guida did start to pick it up. I think he stole the 2nd round, and then Marco Madison was able to take the 3rd round, but he won the 1st and the 3rd or something like that. But either way, Madison showed he created new wrinkles in the game and it showed them in that fight. So that's a better performance for me, and I feel like now, like I said, a guy like Hubbard on that level and maybe a little bit above Hubbard tier fighters, he'll probably win against them easily. It won't be a case where he's tired and just looking for one different avenue. And also, when you round yourself out, now people have more to worry about than this your wrestling. Your wrestling becomes more unpredictable, and you become a threat on your feet, and then maybe start materializing some knockouts on the feet. And then even his wrestling and striking he become even more dangerous. Now people so worried about he can knock you out on his feet and he can take you down, submit you, etc. etc. The more you round yourself out, the more threats they got to worry about. So I feel like he's a much more dangerous fighter right now. I'm not saying him is this premier talent, like, oh, he's going to jump to the top of the division, but I definitely can see him rising to the middle. Then from there, that's where the question's at. But trying to call out Gregory Gillespie, I feel like that's a little bit of a leap in. That's a pretty significant leap in the competition. But hey, they're both wrestlers, and I'm sure they both would be eager to test their wrestling chops. So he can. That's a smart move if he's up to it. But I feel like Gregory Gillespie would beat him at this moment. But that's just my thoughts. Matter of fact, that would be a very competitive fight. Matter of fact, he's shown more striking than Gregory Gillespie has, to be honest. But Gregory Gillespie's pace in wrestling is like his pace and transition. Also, I feel like he's more comfortable with his grappling, more dominant with his wrestling and grappling as far as the MMA. But that's beside the point. And as far as Guida is who he is. He's a fighter who's been around for 100 years. Definitely been improving in some areas, but he's not gonna do much. He's not gonna make no second run. He's like pushing 40, and everybody know what he brings. He did get his striking did improve. He did get his power did improve, but very much who he is. Like, we know who he is. So that's Guida, a solid fighter, and still at this point in his career to put on a impressive performance like that in the loss against a guy who has all this hype around him in Marco Madison is a win in his own. But at the end of the day, winning is winning and losing is losing. But congrats to Guida for putting on that good performance, that good competitive performance, and drawing it to a split decision against Marco Madison. Now on to the main event, we had Cannonier versus Gastelum. I picked Cannonier. Cannon won. Another win for me, but it was a decision instead of like a third round knockout. He did catch him with a hook in the third round. That dropped him, but it did not finish him. He did not finish off that hook. And I also think he dropped him in the fourth round, I believe, but they didn't count that, but I would count that as a drop. Went for a takedown, got hit with an uppercut. I think butt touched the ground. That's a knockdown. But with this one, not a lot to talk. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I think Cannonier showed it's a bigger win for Cannonier to get a decision victory over Gastelum, to take it 5 rounds, to be able to keep pace, to be able to be more technical, be more clean, and tactically beat Gastelum instead of just this guy only just knocks people out. He don't beat people by decision. He can't do that. All he is a knockout artist, and just to simplify him like that. But now that you see he could take it 5 rounds, he can mix it well, switch stance, attack legs of Gastelum, see Gastelum catching the kick, go draw back from it, start to use hands more. Good defense, constant movement, never like really staying stationary or going straight back, so Gastelum can't get off his combinations. So he fought a very smart fight. So a bigger win to be honest for me. Every time a power puncher can go 5 rounds and get a decision over a credible opponent, that's a bigger win than a knockout to me. Because the knockouts might get them more money, might get them better highlights, but decision victories get them that experience. And even at like pushing 40, that's very important for a fighter, especially a fighter. Even though he's pushing 40, he's still very much a developing fighter. Do I see him really beating Whitaker again? I mean, he didn't beat Whitaker. Do I see him beating Whitaker in a rematch? No. Do I see him beating Adesanya? No. But I could definitely see him beating just about everyone else in the division. And like I said, making some statements in the division, but I can't see him ascending to the very top or even next to the top. I could see him maybe ascending maybe further up that top 5, but I think he'll probably going to stop around top 2, top 3. Because like I said, you got Whitaker. I can see him beating Till. People like to size up Till, but I definitely could see him beating Till. I feel like he already showed more skills than Till has, to be honest. But that's my tea for this. That's my thoughts for this card and everything. So I have 5 picks wrong, 7 right. And on that 3-pick parlay with Sherman, Aldana, and Malecki, Aldana and Malecki, you can't put too much investment on people without credibility. Now I say it sometimes I still fall right into the same trap. You can't put too much confidence in people who don't have the history, the records to really back that, the experience to back that, the experience and proof to back the check that you're trying to cash. And then with Sherman, that was already a proven commodity or a proven untrustworthy commodity in Chase Sherman, so you can't really lean on him. Park all congrats to him, no knock on him. He's very much a solid fighter and very much won that fight, but I gotta lean a lot to Sherman now. You can't trust him in these fights like that. Still the same, zero head move having to do, big punching bag when he goes against anybody with some decent skills. And yeah, that's my thoughts for this card. I'm solid. Feel like I did a pretty decent job. I don't know why I sound like a stutter so much, but I feel like I did a pretty decent job with this card. But again, a lot to learn from, and a lot to be better at. So 7-5, 8-5 the prior card, and then try to knock it back down to get back to those like 10 out of 12s or 10-2s or 9-3s or something like that. Get sharpened back up, but a lot to learn, but a lot of little easy mistakes. So positivity and negativity drawn from that card, but it's always research regardless. Once you see the fights, you got research to draw from, and that will help you further in the future with predictions. And once again, sorry Bella for giving you that parlay. I don't know if you're even gonna watch this video ever, but once again, sorry Bella for that 3-pick parlay that went 0-3. Sorry. And that concludes this video. Peace.